Welcome back, you beautiful fans of NH Unscripted. We welcome you to the garden party. That makes me your Ricky Nelson-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the YMCA-like digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. And yeah, I can smell the pool chlorine all the way over here. No towel snapping allowed, that's what we say. You know the rules here. You know how we play the game. Break out that Sony I never know what the plural of that is. Anyway, break them out. Slide that little slider on it over to the radio side, where you'll find us at 1450 AM, 103.9 FM for the souls in Concord, 101.9 FM for the beautiful, beautiful souls in Manchester. And yeah, we got a URL. It's 2024. Almost 2025. I can't believe I have to say that. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. Tell you a little bit more about what happens out there in a few moments. In the meantime, time to thank my sponsor, which, by the way, reminds me, heading into 2025, if you feel like you would love to sponsor this show, hey, contact the station. We're fine here. We're easygoing. We kick back. We're very, very laid back folks. Hey, I used to have a waterbed. You don't get much more laid back than that. Dude, you want to sponsor this show? Contact Kat at the radio station. She'll be happy to set you up. In the meantime, my current sponsor is Lakes Region Fence up in Guilford. We love those guys. We thank them for all they do here. LRFence.com is their URL where I'm staring right at you. You know you missed your opportunity. The summer's gone. The fall's gone. And you know you missed your chance to put up your pickleball fence, your pool fence, your property fence. And you're going to be getting the big stare down come Thanksgiving dinner, dude. I'm telling you. Listen, bucko, I'm doing you a favor. Go out to LRFence.com, LRFence.com. And they have beautiful, beautiful pictures of the work they do out there. Now, you probably won't get it in before Christmas, but you can get at the top of the list for springtime. You'll thank me later. Who's your buddy, right? LRFence.com. We appreciate them. Lakes Region Fence up in Guilford. Go out to their website. There's a button where you can get a free estimate. Matt will give you a jingle. He'll walk the property with you and give you a quote. All right? You'll thank me later. In the meantime, Jody Donahue was in the house a few weeks ago. Jody is the, I'm going to say the owner, proprietor, whatever you want to call it, for the Great New England Artisan and Craft Fairs that my wife and I love to attend in the fall. Some people, they go to the apple orchards. Some people just go leaf peeping. When the fall comes, baby, we go to the craft fairs. We absolutely love them. And one of the reasons is due to people like the guest in the house today, Paul Ringuette. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am top of the mountain. I'm holding on for dear life.
Top of the mountain?
I'm holding on for dear life.
So. Top of the mountain.
Well, I have two answers to that question. I usually say top of the mountain or I'm on the right side of the grass.
Yes, that's what I say. Anytime I'm out of bed, it's a victory. How are you today, and what are you up to?
Let's see, I think about 5'9" today.
Oh, it's going to be one of those days. I see.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the platform shoes on either. So, but no, I'm up to. It's crazy season, crazy time. With Jody's shows coming up and other things that I've got going on, and then people just ordering stuff. I'm blessed to have my little side hobby turn into a big hobby now, sort of into almost full-time and a half type job.
So Paul is a woodworking craftsman, and I mean a craftsman. He is an artisan. And one of the things we love to do here is talk about the arts. And when you see his work, it is art. Almost said a bad word there. Almost.
Well, I'm a friend of the arts, so.
Paul, tell me about how you get started. And how did it, morph its way into, is it a full-time business for you now?
It is a full-time business.
It is. So tell me about how that came about. Go ahead. Give us the spiel.
Yeah, it's a long and twisted tale. So let's start with that one.
All right.
And it was a dark and stormy night. So, no, actually, I never went into this thinking that it was going to do anything. I worked with a graphic designer at a previous company, and I worked hand in hand with this graphic designer. I just loved what he did, digitally with, pictures and design, and just the creative juices from this guy were amazing. I said, I really want to learn this Photoshop thing. So I bought a license. I went to the great, educator called YouTube, and I just sort of, over a couple of years, just sort of tooled away, just sort of, I can do this and do that. And most of it was, at the expense or jokes for friends or families, Photoshop their head into something inappropriate and, and then like send it out there. Like a normal guy would do.
Of course.
Like, hey,
of course.
Look at that.
Been there.
So, and then I, after a couple of years of going that, and I'm still working full time, I said, I really want to make something physical. It's cool for the digital world,
right.
But I'm like, I just anchoring to make something. And so I got a Dremel, one of those little drill things. And I said, I see these people, they're like doing this Dremel art, and, carving and stuff. And I'm like, that's so cool. And they're using these little templates. And then, I spent God knows how many dollars, my poor wife, on bits and tools. And I realized after about 3 or 4 months, I'm like, I really stink at this. I really don't have the
Please be honest.
Yeah. I was going to use a different word, but, I'm like, I really am horrific at the eye-hand coordination. And I'm like, but I'm pretty good with the design on the computer. So it's like, how do I take the design, which I think I'm good at, and have a machine do it? So, and then I spent about 6 months looking at these CNC machines.
Yeah, the CAD machines and stuff.
Yeah, they're sort of like CAD, but they're router based, and they're cut wood and they engrave into wood. And I spent months trying to figure out, like, all right, what's the entry point? How do I get there? And how do I? And I'm sure your listeners would appreciate this. Like, how do I convince my wife that I want to spend $2,000 on something? Because that's a little outside of the normal budget range of the Ringuette household. So
I get $50.
Yeah, and a smile, right? If you're lucky. Yeah. So I finally, like, I'm like, honey, I really want to do this hobby, and I want to buy this machine, and I pay it off over a couple of years, whatever, And she's, she asked, "What are you going to make with it?" I said, "I have no idea, no blanket."
Great way to convince her you need the money.
Yeah. I have no
Good starting point.
Yeah. Well, that's where
I just need it, honey. I just need it.
True love comes in, with my beautiful wife Karen. True love, like, all right. She finally gave in after.
Did you do the weepy eye thing and all that?
I cleaned the dishes. I mopped the floors. I made the bed. I did the laundry. It was like 6 months of servitude, husband servitude, to get to the point where she's like, finally, it's like, okay, all right, you can go get this. And I bought it. And again, I had no idea.
You bought your own CNC machine.
I bought this, and so they range from a couple $1,000s up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the hobbyist ones are in that $2,000 to $3,000 range, and they are hobbyist ones.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying one and making every mistake imaginable. And
how many heads did you go through before you like?
Oh yeah, busted bits. But it wasn't the busted bits that was the problem. It was the wood, because you buy a nice piece of walnut. And
Good point.
for your walnut and some other woods really expensive. And and this is a deep dark secret that I'll confess.
Just between you and me.
You and me. You and me in the four walls.
Let me in on it.
Like, I probably ruined thousands of dollars worth of hardwood in the process of trying to figure this thing out.
I won't tell your wife that.
Yeah, don't tell her that. This is between us guys.
Karen, you didn't hear that.
Yeah, she didn't hear that.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, so, and she's, God bless her, she's seeing, the Amazon shipments come in, and, like, where are you going? I got to buy wood, and, and
dang those paper trails.
Yeah, the credit card bills, and she's like, wow, this is costing a little bit of money here. And so anyhow, she bared with me, and I started, and again, there's what I've found out is there's a community for everything on Facebook.
Good point.
Right? And there are vast communities of these hobbyists and CNC machine folks. And, generally speaking, there's a jerk here and there, but mostly like you throw out a question, or you're learning from your peers and other folks out there. So I learned a lot, what to do and what not to do, and ask a lot of questions. How'd you do that? What settings were you using? What kind of wood is that? And in about a year, I got fairly proficient. And again, I'll be the first one to say I don't know what I don't know, which is a lot. And Karen, my wife, will testify to that. So
Hang on.
All right, I'll speed it up a little bit.
No, that's all right. We got a cliffhanger right there. You are listening to NH Unscripted. Paul Ringuette is in the house, and I'm telling you the work. I brought some samples in. You cannot believe them. I wish we had television in here, but we don't. So you're just going to have to sit there and be jealous. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL for this show. Paul and I will be right back because I do have a lot of questions. Everybody loves a clown, and that makes me Gary Lewis and the Playboys. Yes, you have found NH Unscripted. Welcome back. Oh, we are talking projects today, baby. Paul Ringuette is in the house. I'm staring at his work. I'm telling you, it's breathtaking. It's absolutely gorgeous, and we have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. And Paul, what's your website?
My website is www or www.
Yep.
And the THE is the important part, artfulcarver.com.
Not to be, yes.
Because there's another Artful Carver, and it's some guy out in the Midwest that wants to be me. But
all right. We'll leave that there. So let's talk about, so you're on this journey. I really want to get into the work itself, but you're on this journey. When did you figure out, you know what? I could maybe market these instead of just handing them out at Christmas or a birthday present. At some point, you decided there's some money I could make here.
Yeah, and it's a great point. And it was a lot of family and friends, up front. Just make something, and I'm like, hey, would you like this?
Yeah,
and I still do that. I make something if I do something brand new, or I usually just give it away to somebody just to get some feedback. And by the way, I hate everything I do, so I am my own worst critic and enemy, and that's somewhat normal for, I guess, folks in my world. But I started putting things up on these community pages on Facebook, like the Portsmouth page, or there's a Manchester page. There's a page for everybody in a community, because one of the things that I like to do is design things for a specific audience. So, for instance, what I'm holding right now is, and you can see this on TV.
Gosh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, so this is a 14-inch tide clock of the Seacoast region, and it's in multi-layers, and it's, this is actually done with a laser. So I sort of migrated from the CNC world because my sweet wife, Karen, was like, hey, you used to have one machine. Now you have 4 machines down there.
You had 4 CNC machines?
I have 4 CNC machines in my basement.
Oh, there's a lot of love going on in that house.
And a lot of dust and a lot of noise.
Oh, man.
So she's like, hey, this went from 1 to 4, and they were running a lot.
Really?
They were running a lot.
And I don't mean to interject here, but was that because you had people who were wanting them, or just because you just wanted to make gifts?
It was people at that point, and I moved to that. I want this, and I it was like these Celtic cross, carved Celtic cross tree of life designs was very, very popular for a while. But those things, and I'm using red oak and staining them, and I'm like, oh my God, each one of these things is taking about 6 to 8 hours on the machine, even longer on some of the bigger pieces. And I'm like, wow, it's a lot of time and a lot of still broken, bits and wood and everything. And I'm like, I gotta figure out. And I sort of scaled by getting more machines. I paid for that first one in about a year after I got it. I had the second one already paid off by the time I bought that one. And then the 2 other ones I bought were smaller for smaller projects. So, but I had everything in the basement, and I had this dust collection system, and you're just all this stuff, and it was just oh my God, and the dust in the house, and it's just it got unbearable. and I was doing well, and I started looking around at these laser cutters and engravers, very similar in function, but different tool for different job.
Okay. Were they more accurate too?
Oh yeah, like this. And again, for our viewers on TV here, it's just like looking at the seacoast.
They're
like
3D. They're like 3D.
Yeah, and I've done that over and over again because it's I sort of after a couple of years, and this is about the fourth year of sort of in this sort of world, this twisted world that I've made. I've sort of think of what I do as sort of functional art. So I try to do things that are day-to-day functionally usable.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Okay.
I'll go with it.
I just made up a word. Yeah. So I'm sure that's not the first time that a word has been made up here. And, it's something that serves a purpose, but is different and, conversational in a sense. And I always liked clocks and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I can. And I did some clocks on the CNC, which were kind of neat, but again, very kludgy, nowhere near the detail that a laser gets, and much messier. And I can crank out a clock like this and, start to finish in about a half hour, 45 minutes, 2 or 3 hours of the design work up front.
You can punch out that clock in a half an hour?
Yeah, from the machine, cutting it, engraving it, to...
It's a maritime clock. You have got to see this thing. How would you describe this?
So that's and I have about
low tide, high tide,
250 give or take map areas right now, and I do my own design work, so I can do anything. Wow. But this is a tide clock, and it's there's a tide.
Huh?
Yeah, there's a tide mechanism that goes into it. Yeah, and then it'll at a glance will tell you where the tide is in its cycle. So high tide, low tide, and sort of all the. The tides are about 6 hours and 22 minutes between high and low. So there's a hand that moves very slowly across that clock face.
I see.
And that'll tell you, okay, it's low tide and there's 3 hours to go before high tide. So where the hand shows. So, and I started doing the 14-inch and 22.5-inch and 30-inch, and then I started doing these
30-inch. Mother of God!
Oh yeah, that's the Grande wall. So, but most of what I do is the 14 and the 22.5. But then somebody asked me to can you do small and desktop size? And
you need that back. I don't want to break
and then I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So I make these little 8-inch clocks now, and they're like $25. So it's not a huge moneymaker, but something I sell a lot.
Dude, you are so humble. I'm looking at this Fenway Park clock. It is 3D. Okay, we're going to have to get into the process here, but
yeah,
it is 3D. It's a top overview of Fenway Park from right field.
Yeah, kind of straight down. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of. It's the north-south orientation on those.
It's gorgeous. I mean, you've got the grandstand. This is unbelievable to look at. Unbelievable. So, how do you? Okay. All
right, let's get into it. All right, now let me put my big boy pants on. Here we get the big boy questions.
So, wood. Let's talk about wood.
Right.
Are there certain woods which do not work, as opposed to some that are beautiful for this? And it's gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah. So I went through a lot of different woods for the CNC machine, and then also for the laser, because it's a factor of two things. First and foremost, quality is the most important,
right?
For me, because I don't want drama. I don't want somebody getting something and getting a call 6 months or a year later, this broke, or I don't have the time, I don't have the patience, and I don't want issues. So I went through a lot of different wood. I settled on Baltic birch wood, and because for a few reasons. One, it's available. Two, it holds the stain, the different stains that I use really well. It holds the colors for really well, and they last. I put a little sheen of polyurethane on these things, but the colors are very striking once you get in there. And some of the other woods don't take stain very well. So I settled on that Baltic birch. And again, these multi-tiered ones, just for folks on TV here, are it's multiple layers of wood cut for a specific part of the design.
Yeah.
So for this Fenway one, there's a back layer that basically holds the mechanism in place.
Gotcha.
And then there's the field with the Boston Red Sox logo on it. So that's the actual field. And all this is in proper dimension. And then there's a sort of level 1 for grandstands, and then there's the Green Monster. And so it's tiered out. So with the stadium ones that I do, and I do got hundreds of stadium I even do the Yankees stadium. I know.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. There are those.
You catch heat for that.
Those people, they slime around here and there. The funny thing with anything I sell that's Yankees, it's never for that person. It's always for somebody else.
Of course.
It's for my Uncle Joe or my grandson.
Yeah, how thoughtful of them.
Yeah. So
I bet their money's still green, though.
Their money's still green. And well, I not to detract from the question, but my signage at these shows is, they're, like these coasters and things, they're certain dollars and. But I have a little star that says Yankee fans, $50 each instead of $10 for non-Yankee fans. So
capitalism at its best.
Well, you got to stick it to them when you can stick it to them, and they get it. Most of them find it funny. Not all of them, but most of them find it. funny.
I'm looking at this Fenway Park one for folks. I really do. I really, really wish people could see this. Oh man, okay, I gotta hang on. I'm stuck. I'm staring right at this clock. You are listening to NH Unscripted. I don't know as I've ever been so happy to be out of bed. Mother of God. Paul Ringuette is in the house. He is truly an artist, and the things he has brought in here are, oh my God. Are you kidding me? All right. We're coming back. Paul and I coming back. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM for the folks in Concord, 101.9 for the beautiful souls in Manchester. We will be right back. I have a lot to talk about. Welcome back to NH Unscripted. My goodness, my heart's a-thumping, baby. I'm telling you. Woo, my gosh. I am your Sky Pilot. Yes, that makes me your Animals Like host, Ray Dudley. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL for this show. The show comes to you, by the way, every Wednesday and Friday morning, live at 9 a.m. I know you already got it circled on your calendar, but hey, I like to say it anyway. Paul Ringuette is in the house, and he is stunning me, and I mean stunning me, with the work that he has done. Paul, I want to talk to you about the craftsmanship here. So where do you find the templates for these? And then for people who don't know, what I'm looking at are I don't even know how to describe it. They're layered pieces of work of like TD Garden, Gillette Stadium, Fenway Park, but they're like 3D. They're deep. They're really deep. How do you get that depth in there? Do you have to like start with one layer of wood and then add another on top of it? How does that happen?
Yeah. So it's thinking. Well, it's first of all you got to think like a weirdo. Which I'll raise my hand for that. And second, you got to think in sort of like dimensions. And, this is where all that work with Photoshop that I sort of did with the YouTube years ago really paid off, because it makes you sort of think in terms of layers. Photoshop is very layer-type centric. And, sort of like whether it's a stadium coaster or a stadium clock, or it's a regional, like...
You're considering this a coaster?
It's a coaster.
This is art, man. This is not a coaster.
It's a functional art. It's something that is like, you can use it every day, and, it's a conversation piece. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Wow. That's what I got in my own head. Wow. But yeah, so it's, with the stadiums, I start with the seating plan.
Okay.
The seating chart. So every stadium out there has a seating plan that you can access. And then it's a matter of like breaking that down into its different layers. So, it's the field is the lowest level. There's a backside to that, and it's just a piece of wood. But the field is the lowest level. And then you've got, typically with most stadiums, you have 2 to 3 sort of levels of seating. Especially the professional
you have the grandstand, the upper deck, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. So you sort of like you look at and you say, all right, how do I break that out? How do I break that out into 3 layers? There's going to be a top layer, which is it's Fenway Park, and I like to put some little factoid like what's the seating capacity on it, because it's interesting, and then you start from the bottom or from the top. I usually start from the bottom. Sorry, that's the field. That's easy.
Yeah.
I got to put a logo in there, and then like what's the first layer of seating, and then what's the second layer, and then the top layer, and then you grab a seating chart and I get into Photoshop and I break it out. I break it out into different layers, and then I have to once I've broken it out and cleaned it up. Because it's like all this junk that kind of comes along with that.
Yep.
Then I got to import it into a software that I use this called Lightburn for anybody that might be interested. And Lightburn is the software that will control the lasers. And also it has a lot of design functionality in there. So I have to take it from Photoshop, and that's a 2 or 3 hour process typically. Yeah. Then I have to break it out and bring it into this program called Lightburn, and then I have to set it up for the laser. And that's where you set up like each individual cut and each individual part being engraved. And with the lasers, it's all about power and speed. So with the CNC and a rotor, you're looking at how deep and how fast.
Yep.
I was going to say something about my relationship with my wife, but I'll leave that aside. So, oh my God, I'm so dead. But with the laser, it's like how much power is going through that laser, and because it's and then how fast is that, and that with the laser that dictates how dark the engraving comes out.
All right, now we're getting to the secrets.
Then,
yeah.
When you zip the power up too, will that cut through? Would you want it to cut through the piece of wood, or do you want it to engrave? So there's different settings for that. So like everything, basically I have a sheet of Baltic birch on the machine that matches the size of the machine. And I've got a couple different large format lasers, and a couple my wife don't know about yet. But anyhow, we'll keep that a secret. So they do different things. But and then the machine, you set the program, you turn Lightburn on, you set all the parameters, and I do that up in my little design spare bedroom. And then the machine, I do the engraving part first, and then I do the cutting part second. So as the last thing it does is it cuts out the shape. Oops. And we're off the air.
I thought I was going to be breaking
that's
that.
right. So if I'm not clumsy, I'm clumsy. But it will. So it does all the engraving. Each individual piece, it'll do the engraving part first. And again, it's all flat, single sheet of Baltic birch on the machine. It's just cutting each layer. It just knows like, oh, this one's Fenway Park Field, and this one's the stadium. And it does. It's dumb. It'll do exactly what you tell it to do. Right?
Interesting. Yes.
Unlike what my wife thinks about me. So, oh my God, she's coming up too much. So, I love you, honey. So, but anyhow, so it'll do the engraving, then it'll do the cutting, and then I have to, and then I'll, in a sheet, depending on what I'm doing, could take anywhere from an hour to 3 hours to do a project. And again, I'm using a 48 by 32 inch sheet that I cut down from 4 feet by 6 feet, 4 feet by 8 feet, excuse me. And, it's like these coasters or clocks, depending on how big these things are. Like my larger machine, I can get about 30 coasters, in each part of the coaster, I can get about 30 coasters made from that machine in a couple hours of time. And then, then I have to clean up the smoke residue because the smoke's blowing a little bit and it gets on the wood. So I have to kind of damp cloth that off a little bit. And then I have a friend of ours or a friend of mine who assembles them because I can't do both. I learned a while ago, I'm like, I can't do both. So I, pay her a buck a coaster, and she's watching TV and doing what she does, and she's putting the coasters together for me. And And she's she's told me, she's like, this pays for my car loan every month and then some, because I keep her busy.
Oh,
so,
apparently you do.
Yeah. So she's busy and happy, and I keep asking her, are you getting tired of this? Are you getting sick of this? Is your hands okay? Because there's these coasters, they're thick. They're a little over an inch thick. There's a layer of acrylic on top that protects the wood from the drink, whether it's coffee or soda or water. And they're bolted together using these Chicago screws or binding screws. So each layer, basically these screws compress it so they stick together, and then I put little rubber feet on the bottom.
Are these one of your hot items? They're
very, very hot.
Very
hot. And not only do I do those in stadiums, but like these clocks that I do for the Seacoast or for Lake Winnipesaukee or like anywhere. I make coasters with same sort of design, because once I have the design done,
you just scale it.
Scale it up, scale it down.
You.
So
tell me about the shading. So I'm looking at them, and you can. Is this brown coloration? Is that burnt in, or is that a stain?
That's burnt.
It is.
Yeah. I can't. So the only ones that I'll stain are like the map ones. So if I do one, I'm putting the land layer. It's the acrylic, then the land layer, and then I always try to find something with water in it. Yeah. Because that deep, rich blue really contrasts very well with that. So the water layer is stained. Everything else is engraved into the wood itself, so it's not printed. And
on these raised edges, like where it's dark, is that burnt too? That's stained?
That's all burnt.
Are you kidding me? All in that area?
That's all laser. So and there's a point where the laser, there might be too much detail, but there's a point like these.
Too much detail.
Yeah. There's a point where it could be too much, because the laser, even though it's a laser thin line that's cutting
Sharks
and burning.
With lasers on their
sharks with freaking lasers in their heads. There's a point where it's like too much detail. So,
really?
But these, and that's why I do these at 4 by 4 inches, because it's just enough detail for it to pop.
They're breathtaking. They're just breathtaking. Mother of God. All right, we have to pause there. 3 segments down. Don't ask me how that happens like that. Good grief. You are listening to NH Unscripted. I'll bet you're drooling, because I know I am. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord, 101.9 FM for the folks in Manchester. We're talking, and I mean art. We are talking art today. Paul Ringuette is in the house. We'll be right back. Welcome back to NH Unscripted, where we know you don't drive a big, fast car. Nope. And you don't look like a movie star. And on your money, we won't get far. That makes me your Dave Clark 5-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Car 54-like digs of the WKXL studios. And brother and sister, we are talking art. NH Talk Radio is our URL. You can go out there. There's a button where you can listen live throughout the day. Listen to this show as well as all the other programs here at the studio. Or, hey, you can go check out the archives of this show and all the other shows here at the studio. We love it when you do that. Paul Ringuette is in the house. I am staring, literally mouth open, agape, as they like to say, over the work that he has done. Paul, please give us your website one more time.
Sure. It's www.the.artfulcarver, all one word, Artful, ARTFULCARVER, sort of like the Artful Darger, but I sort of switched that over to the artfulcarver.com.
So,
and I'm in Portsmouth, so I'm.
You are?
Yeah, I'm a local.
Downtownish. Where are you? Like on the outskirts?
Yeah, I'm sort of closer to City Hall.
Got you.
So, and I have a very, people are like, oh, do you have a store? I'm like, yeah, I have a very messy shed and a messy living room and a messy dining room. Until my wife, who's mentioned way too much, and I love you, my Karen. But until she gives me the hairy eyeball and get this stuff out of here, So.
With the money you've spent so far, I think she's in for the journey here.
Yeah, I
don't think she's not bailing anytime soon. So tell me about any upcoming shows you have.
Yeah, so I have doubled the show volume from last year this year. So I have about 40 shows and this year.
That's almost one a week.
Yeah. So I won't bring my dear wife back into the conversation, but when I sent her the schedule, or I printed it and put it on the refrigerator and hid away for a couple hours.
Did you hear any weeping out in the kitchen?
I heard I heard some expletives, and I said, well, honey, the good thing is there's no shows in January, February, and kind of March. So,
how kind of you.
So I'm going to be home and I can do all the laundry and everything for those 3 months. But no, long story short, so Jody's got a show up here in Concord.
Yeah, this coming Saturday.
Yep, and then there will be shows in Hampton, Northampton at the Rim, and then there's also a show. I'm going to be actually at Mohegan Sun.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's dangerous for me because I'm a bad gambler. So, but I got to stay away. I might splurge with the slot machines just to say I did something, but. Are
those all before Christmas?
Yeah. Everything I do before Christmas. Everything's The last show of the year is the week before Christmas at Cisco Brewery in Portsmouth, and all the shows are listed on my website. It shows and events. There's a link there. But yeah, it's been a busy, crazy year, and I've, I don't know how I've done it, but I've doubled my business this year.
The volume.
Yeah,
sales?
Everything's doubled. Yeah,
really.
So, yeah, and last year I doubled from the previous year, and I'm like, I'll never do that again. And oh my god.
So when folks go out to your website, what are they going to see? They'll see maybe an array of the work that you do.
Yeah, there's a basic Shopify site, and that's a great little site for folks like me and folks that. Have
they
a little bit of time.
Back end stuff, so you don't have to worry about,
you just get the pictures, put the descriptions up there, and it kind of creates the website for you. But it costs me $40 a month. I mean,
that's cheap.
Yeah, and for what it gives you, so big fan, by the way.
That's cheap.
Big fan. So they're going to see an array of sort of random things that'll pop up on the homepage, and then there's navigation to the sort of segments of what I do. So tide and time clocks, and then they're all alphabetized. There's a 300 or 400, give or take, the designs already done.
What? Would you say 100?
It'd be 300 or 400 designs.
300 or 400?
Yeah, of the map areas. And I've got probably 200 or so stadiums that I've done. And people ask me all the time at shows or online, hey, can you do this or can you do that? And my answer is always, yeah. I do my own design work, and today's, I don't even consider it custom work because it's today's custom is tomorrow's big seller.
Oh my gosh!
Because most of the things that I've made, the original idea either came from me or came from somebody that asked me to do something, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's give it a shot. So, so I'm happy to do the design work. It's a little tough this time of year to do custom design.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I've got a few that I've promised folks before Christmas, but
is it cost efficient to do one of something?
Yes, because once they get something up on their wall or they have something that they have in their house, there's always a neighbor comes over and says, "Where'd you get that?" And it's I'm my own worst critic, so I don't like anything I do, but people seem to like it and enjoy it, and they're like, where'd you get that? And then all of a sudden I like, oh, Joe or my neighbor bought this for me, or I saw this at my friend's house, and I just get repeats. There's only one clock that I made. It was a big 30-inch clock that I'll never ever get another order for, and it was a guy that I met at a show who owns 300 or 400 acres up in Alaska, and he has to fly his plane to get to the lake. Yeah. Because there's no roads, and there's nobody else that lives within hundreds of miles.
Oh, so he's the only one who knows the old...
Yeah. So, he's like, I'll never sell another... It wasn't even, on Google Maps. I don't use Google Maps, but I couldn't even find the damn thing. He just sent me the GPS coordinates for me to find the damn lake. And it's that remote up in Alaska. But everything else I do, whether it's tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, I get it, I design it, I get some pictures of it, I get it on the website, I get it on Facebook, and and people will find it.
So how many categories? So I'm looking at here in the studio: coasters, door hangers, clocks. Are there any other categories?
Yes, I do. I call them lazy husbands. Because Lazy Susan, anyone named Susan might get
Welcome to 2024.
Yeah. Well, my wife's name's Karen, so we have a very thing about Karen there. So I'm like, all right, I can't call this lazy. I'm going to offend somebody. Yeah, welcome to 2024. So I'm like, all right, I'm a lazy husband. I'll call it after myself. So I call it a lazy husband. But basically, it's a map area, same map area as I do with the clocks, and then I put 7 to 9 layers of countertop grade epoxy resin on top, and one of those like Lazy Susan turnstile things right there. And they're not cheap. That epoxy resin stuff is more expensive than some of the drugs I think are sold out there. It's like 88 cents an ounce, and there's at least 100 ounces of epoxy resin on there. So it takes a long time. It takes a couple of weeks to make one of those things, and they're heavy and durable, but it's again one of those like interesting conversation pieces.
Are there holes cut out for like things to go in them, like cups,
just flat? Just like flat, and some people use them for food, and some people use them for games. But it's what I've really found and have enjoyed is, especially the local things, so like I live on Lake Winnipesaukee, I live in Rangy Lake, I live on the seacoast, I live, wherever it is, like people love where they live, I'd say. And, when I do a design that's in their area or in their sort of in that market, in a sense, they just go crazy for it because there's not a lot of personalized type of art or functional art that's home, it's like sort of generic or something like that. And there are some, I don't want to degrade anything out there, but people love where they live 99.9% of the time. And I even personalize things, so like, hey, send me your address, because all I'll do is I'll take this map, I'll find your home, I'll put a little star there, I'll put the Smiths, or I'll put my kids
wow,
inheritance.
It doesn't get much more personal.
A little personalize it, or people are like, hey, we got engaged over here, can you put that there, or it's a wedding gift, and this is our wedding, and it's so whatever it is, I do my own design work, so it doesn't take much time. But it the level of personalization and sort of that general, like, this is where I am, this is where I live, it just, like, people, I love making people smile and laugh. Yeah. First of all, I don't know if you can figure that out, but...
Your wife?
Yeah, well, sometimes. She gets my jokes sometimes. She'll laugh a few times in this segment, but not all the time. So, but my son is done with me. But anyhow, so that personalization, taking something that's personal for them, for where they live, and making it even more personal, that's like, that crosses a line of like, oh, this is really something, something special. So, and that's really what I'm gunning for. That's really what I really want somebody to say, that's special, that's different.
Are there things which you can't do, you're limited to do? Are there people who are like, oh, can you do, let's say like a wedding photo or something, and you're like, you know what, it doesn't work? Yeah,
those are hard. So like photo engraving or laser engraving a photo is very difficult, because it's very difficult to do.
Paul, we snuck that in. You believe that? Give me your website one more time.
www.theartfulcarver. So www.theartfulcarver.com.
Woo! You have been listening to NH Unscripted. Paul Ringuette is in the house. Brandy, you're a fine girl. Yes, you are. That makes me your looking glass-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Taj Mahal-like digs of the WKXL studios. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord, 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. I hope you enjoyed this show, and I hope you're jealous because you can't see it, but I can. All right, see you next time.